World War I, the Great War. We call it that for a reason. Over 20 million dead. Empires shattered. A generation lost. Scale of destruction was so immense it's hard to imagine anything worse. But what if I told you that history holds conflicts that were even more devastating? Wars that have been largely forgotten by the modern world. These are the stories of cataclysms that dwarf the trenches of the Western Front, hidden in the pages of history. First, let's travel back to 2nd century China, during the fall of the Han Dynasty. You might know it from the epic novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, or from video games. But the reality behind the romance was a period of unrelenting horror. It began with the Yellow Turban Rebellion in the year 184, a peasant revolt, fueled by famine and corrupt officials that quickly spiraled into a nationwide civil war. This wasn't just one war, it was a series of wars that lasted for nearly a century. The once mighty Han Empire fractured into competing states, led by legendary warlords like Cao, Liu Bei, and Sun Quan. Their ambition plunged China into an abyss of violence. A census taken in the year 157 before the chaos recorded a population of nearly 57 million people. A century later, after the wars had finally subsided and the Jin dynasty briefly reunified the country, the census of 280 recorded only about 16 million. Let that sink in. The population drop of over 40 million people. While not all of these were direct combat deaths, famine, disease, and displacement caused by the constant warfare were major killers, the sheer scale of human loss is staggering. Historians estimate the death toll to be somewhere between 36 and 40 million. That's double the casualties of World War I in an era without machine guns, heavy artillery, or poison gas. It was a demographic catastrophe that took centuries for China to recover from. The War of the Three Kingdoms wasn't an epic adventure. It was one of the deadliest periods in human history. Now, let's move forward 1,000 years to the 13th century. A name echoes from the steppes of Central Asia, Genghis Khan. The Mongol conquests are famous for their speed and brutality, creating the largest contiguous land empire in history. But we often underestimate the sheer scale of the destruction they unleashed. Under Genghis and his successors, the Mongol armies swept across Asia and into Europe. Their campaigns were systematic and terrifying. When they besieged a city, they would offer a choice: surrender and pay tribute, or face annihilation. For cities that resisted, like Samarkand, Bukhara, or the Abbasid capital of Baghdad, the consequences were apocalyptic. Accounts from the time speak of entire populations being put to the sword. In the invasion of the Khwarezmian Empire in modern-day Central Asia, it's estimated that millions were killed. The Persian historian Rashid al-Din wrote that in the city of Merv, over 1.3 million people were executed, a number that, while possibly an exaggeration, reflects the unimaginable horror witnessed by contemporaries. The Mongol invasions didn't just kill people, they destroyed entire civilizations. In Persia and Iraq, they wrecked the ancient and sophisticated irrigation systems that had supported agriculture for thousands of years. The canals that turned the desert green were filled in, and the land reverted to arid wasteland.
Ow.
Some historians argue that the region never fully recovered. Across their conquered territories from China to Russia, the death toll is estimated to be anywhere from 30 to 60 million people. At the high end, that's triple the deaths of World War I, the Mongols reshaped the world map. But they did so through a storm of violence that depopulated vast regions of the globe. But perhaps the most destructive war in all of human history, and one that is shockingly obscure in the West, happened just 170 years ago. It's a conflict that makes World War I look like a regional skirmish. This was the Taiping Rebellion. It began in mid-19th century China, under the struggling Qing dynasty. A man named Hong Xiuquan, a failed civil servant who had read Christian missionary pamphlets, had a series of visions. He came to believe he was the younger brother of Jesus Christ, sent to earth to establish a heavenly kingdom of great peace, the Taiping Tianguo. What started as a small religious sect in southern China quickly exploded into a massive rebellion. Millions, disillusioned with the corrupt Qing government and suffering from economic hardship, flocked to his banner. In 1853, the Taiping rebels captured the great city of Nanjing and made it their heavenly capital. From there, they waged a total war against the Qing Empire. This was not a war of armies on a battlefield. It was a war of ideologies that consumed the entire country. The Taiping had radical social policies. They abolished private property, segregated men and women, and enforced a strict, fanatical version of their faith. The Qing government, with the eventual help of Western armies, fought back with equal ferocity. For 14 years, China's most prosperous regions were turned into a charnel house. Cities were besieged, and their populations massacred by both sides. Famine and plague followed in the wake of the armies. The fighting was brutal beyond description. When the Qing finally retook Nanjing in 1864, the city was a ruin, and the war came to an end. The cost was astronomical. While precise figures are impossible to obtain, most historians place the death toll between 20 and 30 million people. Some estimates go as high as 70 million. Let's take the conservative estimate of 20 million. It's on par with World War I, but consider this. World War I involved dozens of industrialized nations across the globe. The Taiping Rebellion was a civil war, fought primarily within one country, using largely pre-industrial weaponry. The sheer concentration of death and destruction is almost incomprehensible. It was the deadliest civil war in history, and by some measures, the bloodiest conflict of all time. More people died in the Taiping Rebellion than in the entire First World War. Yet for many outside of China, its name is completely unknown. These forgotten wars serve as a chilling reminder. We often see history through the lens of our own recent past, believing that the 20th century, with its world wars, held a monopoly on mass destruction. But the stories of the Three Kingdoms, the Mongol conquests, and the Taiping Rebellion show us that the capacity for human conflict to reach apocalyptic levels is not a modern invention. These events altered the course of history, wiped out entire generations, and left scars that took centuries to heal. They remind us that the Great War was not the first of its kind, and they stand as a solemn warning from the depths of our shared past. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into history's forgotten conflicts eye-opening, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the past. See you next time.